It's been a while since I've done a video on Larenz Tate. I think the last time I did a video on him was probably before the pandemic, and I can't remember what it was about, but I know I did a video on him. But here I am doing a video on him again because of a comment that he made in an interview that he did recently, in which he basically said something that I and so many others have noticed when it comes to actors in Hollywood, especially Black American actors. And he basically was stating how Hollywood puts more value on British Black actors rather than Black American actors. And honestly, when I hear him say that, I'll be like, where's the lie at? He's not even lying when he says that. But of course, some people will see him or try to claim that he is a hater. But I'm going to go ahead and read this article that's coming from Vibe and see what he said exactly. Larenz Tate shared his opinion on Hollywood's view of Black American actors versus Black British actors as a guest on the Earn Your Leisure podcast with hosts Rashad Bilal and Troy Millings. During the discussion, the actor shared his belief that the industry prioritizes talent from overseas. I don't look at it as competition. I look at the collective, explained the 47-year-old. There's brothers who are doing it, whether they're doing it here in America, whether they doing it, over from the UK or even from the mother continent, Africa. I'm cool with whatever it's going to be. But I feel like Hollywood believes that there's more value in British Black actors than they do in Black actors. And of course, he means Black American actors here in the States. And I think a part of it goes into that, they have an audience over there, so they translate internationally. Going back to that, what I think is, a hoax that we don't sell or we're not valuable. I think they put that in the mix. And that, let me just pause right there. That was a trope that was going on in Hollywood for years at one point in time. And if you don't know what trope I'm talking about, it was as he put it, a hoax, and it is a hoax, or this myth that Black actors or Black actors in leading roles could not put butts in the seats. They couldn't sell tickets, that they were not going to be box office successes. But we can run down a whole laundry list from back in the day until now where Black actors in leading roles or even movies with predominantly Black casts are financially successful. I remember when Black Panther was getting ready to come out, and they always do a first weekend box office prediction of what the movie was going to open with. And I will never forget what this one particular article said. I can't remember which article it was, but they had predicted that the opening for Black Panther, the first one in 2018, was going to open at like $90 million. I think everybody looked at whoever wrote that article with a major side eye, because they completely undercut what they believed this movie was going to make. And the joke was on them, because that movie went on to be one of the biggest movies of the year. It made over $1 billion. It's the first MCU solo movie to crack $1 billion. The rest of them were groups. All the other solo ones before never made it, but that was the first one. And it had a majority Black cast. And then after that, they stopped trying to use that trope, but I think they stopped using it a little bit before then. But it was, like I said, that was the trope in Hollywood for years, that movies with majority Black cast cannot sell. But then you think about the Blaxploitation era of the early 70s that unfortunately didn't last as long as it did. And I found some very interesting information about that Blaxploitation era that I was not aware of until about a week ago. It was very interesting, to say the least. But that era was doing, wonders for Black actors. Despite how many people might have felt about those type of films, Black people were working, whether they were actors and actresses, whether they were directors, screenwriters, cinematographers, editors. Like, it was one big bubble of Black talent across the board that were honing their craft. And unfortunately, it got shut down before it could really escalate to where it should have, or what it could have taken them even beyond the Blaxploitation era, and where it could have propelled many Black actors and actresses of that time that we don't see anymore, or really hear about when you think about it. But let's go ahead and get back into this. He continued, I think that Hollywood is in love with the UK and all things British. And so I feel like the Black American actor, I see what that decline is, but we're here. adding, but I love the collective and they're killing it. The veteran actor currently plays Councilman Tate, ironically because that's his last name, on Curtis 50 Cent Jackson's award-winning Power series and the spinoff Power Book 2 Ghosts, which is a phenomenal show, especially this season. During an interview with Vibe, the Chicago native explained how his character makes the impossible possible, and then they leave a link where you can hear the entire podcast. Like I said, where was the lie? Where was the lie? Larenz Tate spoke nothing but the truth, but guess what? There's going to be some people out there that's going to try to call him a hater, because I remember when I think I talked about this before on a video, some people were trying to call me a hater. No, it's not me hating on it. It's pointing out the obvious. It's a lot of black actors from Britain who are getting, you know, a lot of roles over here, whether they're playing roles that were made for them in particular spots or roles that could have been for a black American. And Larenz Tate is feeling like black American actors are being pushed to the background. And you know what else probably made him say this is because maybe there were parts that he went out for or auditioned for, but he found out that the person that got it was a person born in Britain. So maybe this is his little axe to grind with Hollywood. And a lot of times people often ask, why do certain actors and actresses fall off? A lot of times it's not just because they got tired of the industry or they just didn't feel like doing it anymore. It could be because they got pushed to the side for someone else that looks like them but is not them, if you get my drift. And I think that's where Larenz is talking about. Because you got to think, Larenz Tate has been acting since maybe the 80s. He has a very long career. As in the black community, one could argue and say that he's a legend in his craft. In the 90s, he was popping up in a lot of films. But if you notice a lot of his filmography, a lot of it was movies that did not, quote unquote, cross over to the mainstream. He did what we in the black community would call hood classics, like Your Menace to Societies. I wouldn't call Love Jones a hood classic, but I mean, black people really meshed well with it. You know, you had Dead Presidents, Why Do Fools Fall in Love? And all these movies came out in the 90s. He was in a show called, a very short-lived show called South Central, which was very good for the time that it was on. I wish it would have kept on going. He was in The Inkwell. A lot of people don't know about that, but he was in that as well. And, you know, he had did some movies later on in, you know, in the early 2000s. It was a movie he had with Vin Diesel called A Man Apart. He was also in that movie Crash. I think Crash was his first mainstream movie. And the reason that is because of the cast that was around him. It wasn't the conventional type of movie that would be deemed a hood classic, because it's really not. When you look at that cast, the only two black people that were the only three, well, I know you had Terrence Howard, you had Ludacris, you had Larenz Tate, and it was somebody else. I think Tandy Newton was in there as well. And speaking of British actors, she's a British actress herself. But they were like the minority in that particular film. And even in that movie, him and Ludacris kind of played a stereotype, more Ludacris than anything. But he didn't really have that crossover success like he probably wanted to, and it's probably because he got bumped to the side for a quote-unquote British actor. I wish that there was a table or a chart that could run down the parts that we love so much from particular actors of who got chosen for that part and who was originally up for it. And I'll give you an example, and this is not Larenz Tate. Did y'all know that originally in the first Charlie's Angels movie that came out in 2000s with Lucy Liu, Cameron Diaz, and Drew Barrymore, that before they cast Lucy Liu, they was originally going to go with Nia Long? I kid you not. Nia Long was supposed to play the role of Alex, which is the character Lucy Liu played. And to my knowledge, the reason they didn't choose her was because allegedly, this is what they say, that Nia Long wasn't that known of an actress. And I'm sitting here like, Nia Long was doing quite a bit before getting that part. If anything, no one really knew who Lucy Liu was. We knew who Drew Barrymore was. We knew who Cameron Diaz was. I'm gonna be honest, when I saw the first Charlie's Angels movie, I was like, who was Lucy Liu? I mean, I knew it had to be her because she was an Asian woman and that name pretty much was obvious, and we all knew who Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz was, so it's only one left, so it's pretty obvious. and Bill Murray rounding it out as Bosley, who of course everyone knew from Ghostbusters and every other type of movie he did back in the day. But that allegedly was the reason. But I truly believe it's because Nia Long would have stuck out as the beauty, as the sex symbol of the film. Because let's be real here. Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore are not holding a candle to Nia Long. I think that was the reason. In my opinion, I think that was the reason why, not the one that they gave. But back to this, I just wanted to throw that in there. But back to this. Larenz Tate told no lies. And when I think about what he said right here, I think also back to the comment that unfortunately got Idris Elba into the Bed-Bucking Hall of Shame when he said he didn't want to be referred to as a black actor. He just wanted to be seen as an actor. And of course, white people ate it up, because I was looking at the comment section and it was a lot of white people who, you know, saying the usual stuff. But then a lot of black people checked him on it. Because remember, Idris Elba would not have blown up if it wasn't for the support of black people. Remember, this is a guy from Britain who got his first major breakout role as Stringer Bell on The Wire, a show that takes place in the hood of Baltimore. What British people you know live in Baltimore? What black British people you know live in Baltimore? I never knew that the guy was British or from Britain until he spoke in an interview. And I was like, where did this accent come from? Why doesn't he sound like Stringer Bell? And as far as I know, he was like the only foreigner in the cast at that time. I don't know if there was anyone else, or Britain. I'll leave it to that. I don't know if there was anyone else, but he was definitely from Britain. And then, you know, for years since then, he started taking on more roles where he still was using the quote unquote American accent. And now, because he's more established in his career, and I believe he said in an interview, he doesn't want to do any more roles where it has him mask or disguise his accent if it doesn't require it. And that's why you see now in a lot of his more recent roles, he's speaking with his regular British accent. And of course, you know, he has that show Luther, and I think they made it into a movie on Netflix where that character is British. And I believe that show is filmed over there in Britain. Then he follows up and, you know, says that he doesn't want to be known as a black actor anymore. And when black people checked him on it, he had to send out a retractment. Because he knows if black people pull from him as support, that's it. It don't matter what everyone else thinks. It's us. We cater to the buildup of your career. White people wasn't watching The Wire like that back then. A lot of them didn't catch on like they don't catch on to a lot of things until much later. A lot of them didn't catch on to The Wire until after The Wire was canceled in 2008. Taraji P. Henson fell into that same category, not to shift the subject, but I'm kind of on the same subject. Black people knew who Taraji P. Henson was. Baby Boy came out, a lot of people felt that should have blew up her career after that, but it didn't. Then she did, you know, Hustle and Flow and other quote unquote black films. Then she did the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Button with Brad Pitt. Now that's the movie that was her crossover movie. But while it did get her an Oscar nomination, she still was not up there. We still knew her, but it wasn't until 2015 when she played Cookie Lyon for a few seasons on that show Empire. Then that's when quote unquote white people discovered Taraji P. Henson. And we were like, Taraji should have been got her flowers. And look at the type of character she played on that show. I rest my case. But to pretty much round out this video, Larenz Tate, keep doing you. Very talented. I love his character. I mean, I don't like his character on Power Book 2 Ghost, but he's a good actor. So me saying that just means he's playing the character well. I truly believe his career should have gone beyond where it's at right now. I can say that about a lot of black actors, especially a lot of black American actors. But he wasn't wrong in his assessment. And anybody who feels some type of way about it is just going to have to feel some type of way about it and just deal with it.